Atelier Resleriana, Forgotten Alchemy, and the Polar Knight Liberator's visuals and story made big promises from its first trailer. A cinematic twinkling world with a new protagonist, an upgrade in graphics, and a celebration of the series yet in free-to-play form, which was definitely a surprise to many. Once in my hands though, I felt that trust and gust refilled as this game on my phone presented to me another great series entry, full of characters I knew and new ones to carry the torch of Atelier to different systems well, along with its own systems simplified as needed, managing to take the ever-addictive gameplay loop and keeping just the right amount of depth that saw me addicted to all different parts of it at some point in my 40 hours with it so far. As a free-to-play game, it does have the flavor of gacha elements and stamina that may not be to some's taste, but if you're a fan of good story and characters and the lovable worlds Atelier brings, Resleriana works to celebrate the whole series while creating a new place of its own that make getting through its current 3 chapters easy, with plenty of recipes and content still to discover to keep all my train trips interesting for the foreseeable future. It might not be as widely accepted as the last big hit Atelier, but as far as I'm concerned, Atelier Resleriana is a worthy new entry that has me excited for the series past, present, and future, and is once again proving that this series is great at providing special worlds well worth spending time with. Atelier Resleriana takes on a dual protagonist type story, with the characters Resna and Valeria being the two followed in this new Atelier journey. Resna is a bubbly young alchemist who adores alchemy to a geeky level, with her spirit being incredibly lovable, especially for those who loved characters like Lua. She serves as a good vehicle for the alchemy side of things to keep this an Atelier story, in a place where alchemy isn't so loved and respected like it is in other Ateliers. Meanwhile, Valeria is a great fighter who Resna crosses paths with, but has a mysterious past to go with her big care for those who took her in after her amnesia, making her the more serious of the two characters, but just bright and energetic enough to have her still feel like an Atelier girl, even if she's more part of the cool action scenes in this story. It's with these two girls Atelier Resleriana's story unfolds in a world of mana, 2 moons, and alchemists from other worlds, and a group of villains ready to turn things sour at any point, as its current handful of chapters explore a cinematic alchemy story in this new world. Determined to keep this feeling like a higher quality Atelier, Resleriana not only offers the cinematic feel of console Atelier in certain scenes, but also in every place you could fit an animation into, with those places comprising the entire Atelier gameplay loop. Console Atelier players will know that Atelier's typical gameplay loop consists of gathering, battling, synthesizing, and events, and all of these elements have been incorporated into Resleriana as core systems, naturally simplified to be quicker, but still serving as essential parts to completing its story, as different requirements let you unfold more of its over 100 story events throughout its current chapters. Chapters autoplay events that already make it feel like a story-heavy experience, and when enemies appear in the story, usually it's your turn to fight, where Resleriana's turn-based battle system comes in. Likely for simplicity and connectivity, Resleriana returns to a more traditional turn-based system, complete with a timeline and timeline boosts and debuffs that come up periodically that actually reminded me a little of the Trails series, especially with how you can use different attacks and moves to take advantage of them. You mostly have 2 attacks, a light and a heavy one, with the light one meaning your turn will come around again sooner, and the heavy one dealing more damage. So if your enemy is about to get a boost, or even the burst attack that you'd probably prefer to have, the light attack will mean you might move the timeline in just the right way that lets you have it instead, making this a simple but thoughtful battle system that I found myself addicted to at multiple points, especially when paired with the exciting burst attack animations for all my favorite Atelier characters that feel like a good reward when you've played battles right enough to see them. Item and type advantages also play a part here in true Atelier and JRPG style, although a minor complaint I have is the current auto party setting doesn't keep types in mind. I mostly just ended up using my strongest units, which usually did the trick, bar a few genuinely challenging boss battles that required me to synthesize better equipment, which I didn't mind as that's pretty typical of Atelier. I also found my own workaround for this, which was removing the equipment from one of my wrong unit types, then using the auto-equip function to give it to a unit of the right type, as you can at least sort by element, and this usually helped me beat harder boss battles as long as I had everyone leveled up to the power level that was recommended. If not, there are daily missions where you can raise things like stats, along with gaining drops to strengthen Memoria cards based on moments in the Atelier series, or balls and crystals to break level and star caps respectively, meaning there are plenty of systems to balance for character development alone that make it easy to dive into, especially if this is one of your favorite things to do in smartphone games on the go like it is for me. This is an Atelier game though, and items play an important role as they should, one I've been reminded of recently as I realized you could use 3 items and not just one in battle that really does help give an edge. Due to the nature of matter in Resleriana's world, synthesizing with multiple people is more likely to guarantee a better alchemy result, so synthesis in this doesn't just involve materials, it also involves people. Each item synthesis has 3 set characters you'll synthesize with 2 more chosen by you and the materials added to get to the final result. Rather than materials having all the traits that will carry on to the item, each person also carries a trait, and with materials carrying 2 as well, and the item only able to hold 2 in total, it's almost a gotcha which traits and stats you'll get once the item is done, making each synthesis and what you get a little exciting, especially with the gorgeous animations that play out as they happen. In spite of this gotcha-like system, you can still rely on the fact that you'll unlock items with better base stats as you progress the story, and I felt very at home with the fact that each chapter I ended up making a new set of equipment that usually help me keep up with the recommended power level and able to progress like I would usually. You can keep everyone's potential traits displayed to make things easy as you synthesize, hoping their color combinations fit all together to help you get what you want. It is a little different, but again, I think it's a good balance of simple and deep elements that give you the option to really stew over each item or the ability to make something really fast, as it's easy enough to do at a glance in this one. The only thing that ever really slowed me down in synthesis was a usual Atelier problem, which is being out of materials, which is where gathering comes into Resleriana to complete the Atelier gameplay loop. I was initially worried at first as you just unlock materials from battles at the very start, but once you play enough of chapter 1, you unlock dungeons that take a slightly longer time to complete, but are a side-scrolling take on the gathering of Atelier, where you pick up a few materials, some regular, some rare, run into monsters, and hopefully get what you need successfully. This partnered with the talking stages where you run around a field and talk to NPCs in a quest style more feel like tributes to the bigger mechanics from console Atelier, since both are basically fail-safe as long as your party is up to scratch and mostly just require you to get from one side to the other safely. They are, however, spiced up with additional Atelier characters on the field, with the gathering part allowing you control whoever is the head of your party, which allowed me to fulfill certain desires like exploring with Riser again, and also side characters like Lent for the first time, and they all get the mini cinematic moments that are especially cooler for characters from older Ateliers, as this is probably the best they've ever looked. In all parts of its gameplay loop, which I don't think will ever beat the depth and rhythm of console Atelier, I don't think I'd want them to be any deeper than they are for smartphone, and with small little things like its timeline that encourages strategy and pretty moments everywhere, it does make me feel like effort was put in to keep it fun and interesting. There's a lot of content too, with all of its score battles with varying difficulties or dungeon levels that allow you to get better materials to influence synthesis more, so it's easy to feel like you can dive in deep. But since the story will also let you get a sample of everything too, it's also easy to play however your mood might want you to. And with all of it being a visual feast, it manages to feel high quality at all times, balancing the flow of Atelier and the prettiness of modern games that makes this tribute to the series look and feel good to a big fan like me. With cinematic moments sprinkled everywhere, it's clear to see Resleriana keeps to its promise of being a cinematic alchemy RPG, with this present in many series of graphically delightful moments. As I make this, it was the eve of the 4th chapter, and before making this, I made sure to be done with at least the current 3 that it launched with. During them, I managed to fall in love with this new Atelier world, largely thanks to how much I love its new characters and the story of its new alchemist Resna, who I adore, and it's hitting all the Atelier beats I'd want it to that makes it effortless for me to enjoy it as a fan so far. If you like the story of Atelier Riser, Resleriana brings in the depth of that in a similar way, including the inner monologues of characters like Resna and Valeria that make it easy to get to know them on that deep level. Resna is kind, bubbly, has an adorable voice up to par with all the others in this almost fully voiced game, but also has insecurity about how she fares compared to the alchemists from other worlds, aside from her slightly over-the-top love of alchemy that has also prevented her from making friends or getting customers for her shop on more than one occasion. Meanwhile, Valeria is powerful but softened by the people around her that make it interesting to see what she does in pivotal story moments, and while Resna is certainly my favorite of the two in the way that Atelier makes you fall in love with all of its new alchemists, Valeria adds a different color and relationship to the story that I think helps it be extra special. So far, a few villains have been introduced with gorgeous designs for Noko, who helped illustrate the mysterious trilogy, and they add a nice layer of chaos and genuine darkness to Resna's purity and positiveness that makes for good contrast and has me wondering how they'll affect her alchemy, the bigger world, and Valeria as things progress, with a clear darker force bubbling underneath things to keep it interesting. And this is with the ultimate cherry on top that Resna is being taught by beloved alchemists from the Atelier series, with the appearance of these characters being surprisingly appropriate so far. For example, I thought at first that Riser appearing pretty early on was likely to appease newer fans, but hers and others all seem to be well tied into a point or moment the story is trying to achieve that just makes sense, so I'm very excited to see who else pops up and their role in the story too. According to missions, I have another 50 plus events to play now that chapter 4 is released that will no doubt take some time considering the first 3 took me more than 40 hours in total, although that also did include a score battle addiction that probably took up at least a few of them. One thing that shouldn't be worried about is the amount of content Resleriana has and if it will be any less in depth with its characters as it isn't, and with mysteries left over like who Roman really is or which villain will shake things up next is a journey I look forward to discovering more and seeing grow as its monthly main campaign and story continues at a steady pace. I just mentioned monthly story, which is where the free-to-play elements and how they feel in contrast to a console release comes in, including paid and unpaid things. While I usually try to pay for things as little as possible in smartphone games outside of monthly subscriptions, which Resleriana doesn't have, this one did get me in just once with an exclusive Memoria card for about $5 that in the moment I couldn't mentally live without. But for things like gachas, I haven't been tempted as usual due to the random nature of things, especially with how many free gachas it gives you as well. Resleriana gives you 1 free gacha a day, and with that I even managed to pull the event Sophie that came up recently, whereas my boyfriend paid to try get Sophie or Plofter and had no luck, with him actually getting Sophie eventually on the free one as well. This daily gacha does seem to be with a small trade-off though, as unlike most smartphone games I play, it doesn't guarantee a 3-star or an SSS Memoria for doing a 10 pull, with that 10 pull only giving you 1 extra medal instead. Cost-wise, a 10 summon here is at the average 3,000 yen price point that I usually see here, with Gus Junzo Hisoi recently promising a 1,500 star gacha to help make everything a bit more cost-friendly for those choosing to pay. Personally though, I see no need to, as long as the potential to get a bunch of 1 stars if I'm unlucky is there, and there are also enough free ways to get the star currency in my opinion that if I really wanted something, I'd much rather get it that way. I'd rather grind out quests for recipes or watch the ads that lets you watch 6 times daily for some free ones, so for me, it feels fairly even both in terms of what it gives you for free and how fair it is. As for the other free-to-play elements, timers affect whether or not you can do 2 things, which are outside of the story battles including dungeons or synthesis, with there being a separate timer for both. Battles and dungeons use stamina, which typically charges around every 5 minutes, with things like daily battles of score ones costing 10 and dungeons costing 30. All of these also include unlimited skips, especially for the crystal stage. That means if you just want to get daily XP and cold boosts, you can do so without wasting any time as long as you have stamina. There are plenty of refreshers daily, such as a free charge and the 2 pies you get from Arona daily that make it feel like Resleriana is happy for you to play, along with the fact it doesn't cost anything to complete the main story as long as you've met its conditions. Mana, on the other hand, is for synthesis and charges at a rate of every few hours, which means you can't binge it at all like previous Atelier games let you. This seems to be woven into the world of Resleriana, as mana is said to be more of a limited resource and essential for synthesis in this world, so it makes sense, and missions will often give you free mana at least a couple of times a day, so I only really had it block me out of stuff maybe once in my time with it. Overall, I only really started hitting the occasional empty stamina bar over 100 events later in chapter 3, so I think you can do plenty to get used to the flow of it before you feel the free-to-play parts kick in, and by that point I was so heavily invested in the story that I was willing to come back once everything charged up again. In fact, the fact I'm making this review is proof I liked it, as this is the first Japanese smartphone game I've been able to get up to date with in a long time, and I feel really proud I was able to fall in love with its characters enough to be able to do so, even if as of today I'm behind now that chapter 4 has come out, but that's just the nature of how these more actively updated games go. As for if I think we should see it in English, I hope we do, as there's another great Atelier story in here waiting to be told, and plenty of fans fans would appreciate seeing well-loved characters like Ryza, Sophie, the Arlen girls again, and more that this game definitely allows you to do in a very pretty way. However, a big problem I found in the Lost Atelier smartphone game, aside from its abrupt end of service, was that its localization got worse and worse the more I played it, and before I knew it, it was gone. So if Resleriana ever comes west, which may or may not happen as reception was pretty mixed on its announcement, it needs to come over with a lot of care to give justice to this great new group of characters that do represent the continuation and the title of Atelier 25 well. For myself, my time with its Japanese release at least, I feel very happy that it exists, is on my phone, and I'm excited to continue committing myself to keeping up with its events and content going forward. I enjoy its turn-based battles, and this way I interact with my favorite series and its characters of old every day while getting to know a new group I really like too, and it's with this in mind, and in spite of the fact it's a free-to-play game, that whether through a localization, an anime, or something else, I sincerely hope that everyone gets to know the wonderful Resna and this world someday too. They say third time's the charm, and with this as Atelier's third dedicated free-to-play game, I'd say that Atelier Resleriana is easily the best one of this type yet, and the heart put into its story makes it worthy of its place in the mainline series. It features all the charms of what made it fun when everyone came together in Nelke, with everyone's favorite alchemist appearing in every part of it, yet it's an RPG and has a great new story, making it both a great tribute to the series and a look forward at hopefully the many cinematic things to come in future Ateliers too. If you're allergic to free-to-play elements, they are fairly subtle for many hours that let you get to know things undisturbed, but I think some people just don't like those things, so especially for Western fans, hopefully there is a way to consume the story for everyone at some point that does both the adorable Resna and strong Valeria's story justice. I honestly have no idea how this will be done for Western fans, but I do know that I'm enjoying it a lot, and it's easily entered the top of my roster of smartphone games as it's so easy to do dailies and spend a little time with the series every day. I hope everyone else gets the chance to meet Resna and friends soon as I get into the continuation of this story to discover what feels like a magical new Atelier world that I want everyone to enjoy someday. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Atelier Resleriana so far, and if you've tried it, please tell me what you think too. You can like and share this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel for more JRPG content like this, and ring that bell to get notifications on whenever I post so you don't miss a thing. You can check out more videos here, and you can find me on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at JRPG Jungle. Links to those will be in the description below, and until next time, thank you for watching this big video, and bye!